I know I'm human. And if you were all these things, then you just attack me right now. So some of you are still human. This thing doesn't want to show itself. It wants to hide inside an imitation. It'll fight if it has to. But it's vulnerable out in the open. If it takes us over, then it has no more enemies. Nobody left to kill it. And then it's won.
You son of a bitch, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, didn't you? You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why? Why?
For a girl like you to come into my life, I've been waiting for a girl like you, the love that will survive. I've been waiting for someone new to make me feel alive. Yeah, waiting for a girl like you to come into my life.
You bitch! You called me a bitch!
What's in the basket?
How do we know she is alive?
Say, please stop it. There's no more time. You've got to... Please, stop it. Stop it now. Turn it off. Turn it off. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop
Who's that?
All right, we're here for a very special video, and I have a couple guests. First up is our editor of Ultraviolet magazines, contributed to several Blu-ray releases. He is a proponent of grindhouse cinema, horror, exploitation, all films, and controversial cinema. How's it going, Art?
It's going well. It's going well. How are you both today?
I'm doing great.
I'm doing good.
My other guest is first-time guest on the show, Michele Kisner. She is also a contributor to several Blu-ray releases, a film critic, a writer. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys both being on the show. I love doing these things, and I always love having guests. You get a lot of good discussion that way. But I guess we should move along and ask the ultimate 42nd Street question. What's in the basket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're talking about the iconic 1982 directorial debut of director Frank Henenlotter. His first feature film, I should say. Gritty 16mm sleaze classic. So yeah, let's hop into this. I guess, do we do the plot, or does everybody know the plot? Does anybody want to handle the plot of Basket Case?
Do people not know the plot of Basket Case? That's like not knowing the plot of Frankenstein. I mean, there's probably people who don't. And, but Christ.
I mean, it follows a pair of formerly conjoined twin brothers going out and getting revenge on the doctors who wrongly separated them. And Dwayne Bradley is the normal-looking brother, very sheltered kind of brother, and his deformed little brother is Belial, that resides in a wicker basket. So yeah, there are also these kind of people from this small little town, and now they're in gritty New York City, and it's kind of a weird little mixture there. So yeah. Is anything anybody wants to bring up? Maybe their first kind of experiences with Basket Case?
The first time I saw it, actually, it's probably not going to be as cool as everybody else, but I saw it on USA Up All Night, because that's where I saw a lot of cult films growing up, because I grew up in a small Midwestern town, so it was hard to get, cult films and stuff. So that's the first time I saw it, in probably the mid to late 90s was on USA Up All Night when I was in my early teens. And then of course later I saw it on VHS and DVD and all that. I saw, and oddly, I don't think it wasn't that edited on USA Up All Night, honestly. I mean, it was, but not as much as you would think. But yeah, that's the first way I saw it.
I first saw Basket Case very early in my development as a horror fan. We got our first family VCR when I was in the 5th grade, which for me would have been 1985-86 school year, and it was an early rental for me. I had that year I had seen the first 5 Friday the 13th movies on cable. My family was watching the Super Bowl, and I was in the other room watching Friday the 13th Part 5, and then they showed 1 through 5 one week, and I recorded them, and then I was off to the races renting whatever. And Basket Case, I had to see that in the 5th or 6th grade on VHS. It was widely available tape, at least where I was growing up, and I rented it and immediately fell in love with it as a young child.
I think the first time I saw this was definitely a video store one. By the time I was going to video stores, it was probably, the very 1990 or so. It's 4 or 5 going to the video stores. And they had all 3 of them about that time. I think part 3 came out in 91, 92, somewhere around that time. So they had all 3 of them lined up. And any little kid, the first instinct when they like horror movies is monsters. You go for the monsters, So I'd see those and I'm like, what is this? And the cover art was very iconic with the little basket and the art. So you're very intrigued, and you look at the other ones and they have all the kind of giant extravagant freaks on there, and you're like, I gotta see these. And it took a little while working on my mom to eventually let me rent Basket Case, because that's one of those ones where you're like, I don't know, man, this could be a little iffy. And it's definitely iffy for somebody about 10 years old or so. So I eventually got around to watching them, and I enjoyed all of them, and Basket Case was one that just kind of stuck with me. It's one of those ones that you can show people and your friends, and they're just like, what in the world is this? It's kind of a perfect cult midnight movie. Yeah, and I would say 42nd Street movie, although a lot of it takes place on there, the show scenes. But according to Henenlotter, it never actually played 42nd Street, right? Until later, much later.
Right. I know that Brain Damage, when it first opened in New York, opened at the Cine 42, which is a famous grindhouse. I know that's where Frank Henenlotter himself saw Last House on Dead End Street, for example, when that played New York. But the biggest venue for Basket Case in New York, and where it really took off, was the Waverly, which is now IFC Center. And the Waverly was right there in the heart of the Village near Washington Square Park. And that's really the theater where audiences in New York, at least, fell in love with Basket Case.
Why do you guys think this movie stands out and is kind of iconic, developing a cult kind of status?
I think personally, it's because it's such a classic style story, right? Well, first off, people are intrigued, I think, by conjoined twins. It's not something that you see a lot in real life and also in cinema. There's been a couple of examples of real life conjoined twins that did movies. But I think there's just something intriguing in a body horror-esque type of way about two people connected. And also, usually when you see conjoined twins, they look kind of normal other than the fact that they're conjoined. But Basket Case, Belial is really gross and nasty. It almost looks like some sort of cancerous growth that has somehow gained sentience. So I think it's a really trashy take on it, but it's fun. It's not trying to be a higher, high concept thing. It's just what if there was brothers and one of them was a grody blob monster, and it was and he kept him in a basket. That's fucking funny, man. I can just imagine them sitting around writing that, and it's fucking funny, and it's what better place to set it than New York, where you could do it most people, as long as you're not bothering them, they don't give a fuck what you're doing, so they're not going to get in your business. So you could literally walk around with a basket in New York and nobody would give them a second glance, until obviously Belial starts killing people, then they got to get involved. But I think it's a simple story. It's fun. It's not pretentious at all. It's got gore, great effects, not too long. It's the perfect, like you said, the perfect little gem of a cult movie that you can throw on at a party and most people are going to vibe with it.
Yeah, I think there's something about, that was very well said. I think there's something about the tone of Basket Case that's a little bit difficult to describe, because it's just from the jump, this extremely fun movie. It has this childlike campiness to it, but not obnoxiously so. It's just a very fun movie with a tone that's difficult to put your finger on, from the sweet relationships between the Dwayne character and the other people in the seedy building he's staying in Times Square, to the love interest subplot, to the revenge subplot, and then you get to the gore. And as Henenlotter has said, the gore is part of the comedy. I think Basket Case is one of, if I had to name my 5 favorite 80s gore comedies, Basket Case is certainly one of them. I think, it has a tone all its own. And, the stop motion, there's a lot of simple folk out there who think that the stop motion animation makes the movie amateurish. It's intentional, of course, they could have easily pulled a string and made Belial move, a little less ridiculously. But that just is so hilarious when you first see Belial in stop motion moving around. And it's just one of these movies that, it has just this lovable tone that is kind of hard to describe without seeing it, right? You can tell people it's a gore comedy, but that sort of implies something a lot different than what you get actually with Basket Case, from its zany performances on down. And I think it's just a movie with a tone all its own, a sense of humor all its own, and you're either going to connect with it or you're not. Most people seem to connect with it. It's a beloved movie for good reason.
I definitely want to add in that, it's strange to put, like you said, the tone's really hard to explain. And I was sitting there trying to come up with what I would call it as, because comparing it, and it's not exactly these things, but you like can see the gimmicky shit because he like in reading your article and knowing him, he liked William Castle. So there's going to be gimmicks and weird and puns and stuff like that in there. But at the same time, he generally has a little bit of that John Waters flavor of those over the top weird kind of actors that you're like, is this bad acting or just this purposely over the top strange acting? And it also reminds me of stuff like that Paul Bartel would make, like Eating Raoul or Death Race 2000, where he has that element, especially Private Parts, where, you know, they have that hotel and it's all these zany, weird characters going in and out. Characters almost that wouldn't typically be in a horror film, right? You know, maybe there would be one in an old Universal movie or old Hammer movie, like the person that's interviewed by the cops, like, I saw it, and they're just like a drunkard or something like that. But all the characters are so bizarre. Their delivery is weird. It's a mixture of, you know, amateur actors and people that aren't really actors, you know. You think that Joe Clarke, he's like, all alone in this cold, cruel world. It's like, that is some weird-ass acting and bizarreness and all the characters. And then some of them do really feel lived in this world, right? Like the Robert Vogel. That guy seems genuine, you know. He's a character type, but he's like, what's in the bed? He's like, what's going on in my hotel? That guy is just such a one-dimensional character, but he does it so perfectly, you know, that cutout. And the one thing that I was sitting there like thinking about, you know, in terms of 1982 movies and even like gritty New York movies, it's always brought in, you know, you got the directors who are always just essentially like, you know, they're like, you name a gritty New York and you think Abel Ferrara, you know, Frank Henenlotter, all these guys like that, William Lustig. But even the Italians would make the movies in New York. But you start with like Driller Killer, you know, Maniac, New York Ripper, all even Killing Hour from 82. And all these movies have some sort of sense of grounded in reality, no matter how ridiculous they are. Basket Case does not. It is grounded, but it's in its own weird fantasy world where it's not a hulking murderer. It's not a mute girl getting revenge. It's a little mutant monster killing people. And like Henenlotter does, you know, they're freaks. He's a freak, but he's not a realistic freak, you know? So there's fun to be had, you know? It's not it's an exploitation movie, right? But it's not exploitative of actual people with deformities. So it's like, this is very guilt-free, sleaze, trash, weird mixture of 42nd Street, New York City stuff with fantastical little monster movie. It's weird.
Yeah, I think anytime you have non-realistic acting in a movie, there's going to be people who don't understand it and think of it as bad acting. This movie is interesting because it sort of has both. Like, there are moments where the actors are acting in a normal fashion and delivering decent performances, and then there are these over-the-top, exaggerated, non-realistic moments. You know, like, you can take, you know, something like the new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, which, of course, after sitting through a movie that long, as soon as the movie's over, you go to the restroom. And so you're in the restroom, and there are these, like, imbeciles being like, why are all these good actors delivering such horrible performances? Just not understanding that this is stagey, David Mamet style, not realistic dialogue, right? And, like, obviously intentional. And that's where some of the dialogue fits in Basket Case. It's, like, over the top, not supposed to be realistic. But then you do have moments of just ordinary delivery mixed in. So it's sort of a combination of realism and non-realism.
Does anybody want to mention? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to
say my favorite character, honestly, in this movie is Casey. She's played by Beverly Bonner. Just want to make sure I get everybody's names right. I don't know, but she's so just like genuine, and I love that, you know, she's just doing her own thing. She's not like a helpless character in any type of way. You can tell she's lived in New York for a while. She knows what's up. She takes care of herself, but she's like also immediately, you know, is empathetic towards like Dwayne, you know, like she wants to put him under her wing, kind of help him out, you know, because he's obviously, you know, it's like a fish out of water story a little bit, because he's like, you know, small town kind of guy, and he's in the big city kind of on his own, trying to, you know, do his own thing, and she kind of takes him on a wing. They hang out. I don't know, I just really like her. She just feels really warm and comfortable and genuine. And I heard that, like, you know, in the beginning she didn't have a large role, but Henenlotter liked her stuff so much he kept like adding more for her to do. So I don't know. I just thought that she's a really genuine character in this film.
She is, and she brings this like odd sweetness to the movie. Like you expect him when he gets to this seedy hotel just to be taken advantage of and fucked with, and instead you have this street woman who is a prostitute with like a heart of gold who wants to take him under her wing, and she's just like brings this level of sweetness. She was a trained actress and had done some off-Broadway work that Henenlotter had seen, and then I got to see she did this like stage play called Casey 30 Years Later, and one of the few performances of it was here in Pittsburgh, and it was fun to see her that many years later hanging out. That was in 2012, and she put on this whole production, and you could kind of tell that she has this like actual acting background. But no, the unique tone definitely on the list of things unique about it is the sweetness in that character and that relationship between her and the Dwayne character.
I noticed this about it, just thinking about you guys saying all this stuff, and it's like in the terms of like 80s and 70s and horror movies before this, and I'm sure after, of course, but a lot of the female characters are portrayed differently here. We have Beverly Bonner, who is, either prostitutes in a lot of these movies, just play victims, except like Vice Squad, sometimes they get a little bit more to do. But in terms, she's just a sweet, good character who doesn't get killed, who helps out, Dwayne. And then we have the aunt, who is very a good, understanding woman. And then we have Dr. Cutter, who instead, her scene of usually where men are, taking advantage of a woman, getting them drunk. I have the polar opposite of this. Dr. Cutter kind of taking advantage of a young man, getting him drunk and stuff. And it's just like, this is kind of cool that it's kind of flipping a lot of this on their heads, while a lot of the male characters come across rather wimpy. The two doctors do, the father does, Dwayne. Dwayne's a little kind of sheepish and stuff like that. And we have the love interest too, who is kind of aggressive on the point, very friendly, very weird, very strange character too. So it's like, I think that the characters not only are kind of like portrayed differently, but I think in a refreshing way too, not just in a zany way. Does anybody want to mention any of their favorite scenes, any iconic moments, any certain shots or locations that they generally really like?
I always like the scene when they flash back to how Dwayne and Bilal got separated from each other. There's like a lot of interesting, themes there, because obviously Dwayne and Bilal, when they're connected together, Dwayne can never live a normal life if he has Bilal on him, right? Because, it would, he just, especially because Bilal is like so grotesque looking. It's almost like sad in a way, because like Bilal didn't do anything to deserve to be like that. He was just born that way, right? But it's obvious that him being attached to Dwayne is like bringing Dwayne's life down too, when, theoretically they could separate them, right? But the way they separate them, is so traumatic. Like there's just no reason for it to be that traumatic. Like they just call, the whole entire situation is just like a farce, because they like call doctors, they come to their house, I guess, and then they're just like injecting Bilal with to put him out, and he's screaming like, which is also, Bilal screaming is like fucking scary every time he does it. I don't know what it is, but it's some kind of like weird primal thing where it just like scares the shit out of me, because they don't really humanize Bilal in the first one as much as they do in the second and the third one. They kind of like, he has more of a personality and like I guess autonomy, but in this one he's literally just like a screeching monster that's just like full of like urge. It's almost like it's like a physical representation of urges, like it or whatever, but it's just like on the outside instead of on the inside. But that entire scene when they're separating them, and there's just blood everywhere, and they're pulling Bilal off, and they're just they rip him apart so terribly. Like there was no other way for really there was no way for their relationship to not end in tragedy because of the way they were separated and the way Bilal was treated. And obviously Dwayne has like PTSD from that whole entire situation. I just thought that whole entire part was just really, it's like sad in a way. And I know it's kind of probably played a little bit for laughs too, because just the entire like setup of it. But I don't know. It's like a bummer scene, you know?
For sure. And the part that always cracks me up, because I guess it's the first time Belial shows anything but fear. I mean, but anger. He shows that fear. And it's just it's probably my favorite moment of the movie. I'll just get into it when he says, "Doctor, I'm not sure that other thing is even human." And then it has the pan through the staircase and you see Belial and he's not even moving, but they add that sound effect where he does, he's hurt. He actually is physically hurt. Like it's just so funny to me that it's also like sad and funny. You're like, oh, but you can't help but laugh. So I probably put that, and the ending is fantastic too. But
I'm obsessed with Belial eating those fucking hamburgers. That is just like the little like chomping noises. Like I there used to be, I'm better with it now, like I'll put the remote far away. There used to be certain movies that like I just couldn't get through. Like anything with David Hess, I would just have to watch him like repeat these lines over and over again. Or the Driller Killer, oh my god, like it would take me like 3 hours to get through it because I would just like have to watch the phone bill scene on repeat. But like I have definitely watched the eating of the burgers as a loop, like you know, like a normal person would be watching porn or something. I've like watched that on repeat over and over again. That shit cracks me up. It's probably my favorite moment in the whole movie.
I like when he gives them hot dogs, he just like throws the bare ass wieners in there. Like it's not even like constructed in a hot dog like configuration. He's just like, here's some fucking wieners, bro. Eat it up.
Totally.
There's a lot of gross eating in this movie, and it went into the special effects on top of that, like a lot of gross special effects, sound effects, you know what I mean? They definitely took their time with those and stuff like that. And I think he talks about that on some of the special features, sitting there making his own special effects and the stabbing like things. I don't remember if it was an interview you did with him or just some of the commentary and stuff, but that's one thing in independent movies that he does mention. Yeah, you got to make your own special effects. There's nothing that takes you out of a movie quicker on a low budget movie is a drone shot now, or one thing is just the effects you buy, the stock effects that, you know, you hear that stupid gate open again or that creaking and you're like, kill me now, or, you know, the Wilhelm scream. That one's become cult and funny, but at certain times you're just like, that's enough, you know. But the special effects and the sound effects and stuff, they stand out as very unique and kind of homemade but perfect.
Well, one of the weird things, though, is that, like, you have these, like, backyard basement effects, and then all of a sudden, there's this aerial shot of New York that was not stock footage, that, like, they're actually flying and filming the city, and you're like, wait a minute, like, they shelled out for that? It's an interesting dichotomy there. It's like, do we really need this aerial shot of the World Trade Centers? But yeah, I mean, it looks, it shows a level of professionalism that it sort of goes to the idea that these effects look the way they do, not just out of necessity, but also, you know, the stop motion in particular is just a fun thing. It adds another layer of humor to this film. So
there's a cool extra on the Arrow release that has Robert Morgan did that Belial's Dream, I believe it's called, where it was all, you know, he does stop motion and it's fantastic. And like, I would watch a whole basket case movie that was just stop motion. Honestly, they should just give Robert Morgan some money and be like, hey, make a basket case, you know, like side movie or something. But the other interesting thing about that, I guess, is it kind of explores Belial's like sexuality, which is pretty prominent in this film too. There's just this idea that maybe he's jealous of Dwayne because Dwayne can like basically, so Belial's like a cock blocker in Basket Case, the first one. He's like, you know, it almost feels like he's jealous that Dwayne can live this life and have sex with women. And Belial also has these like sexual urges, but he can't really act on them because he looks like the way he does. And also like, I know in the sequel there's like the sex scene and all that, but I don't know where his penis is. Like, I don't know anatomic. I don't know. I don't even want to think about his penis honestly for that long. But like, I don't know. Just I love this idea of Belial being this like little clump of like sexual repression, right? and he wants it, and he wants what Dwayne has, but he can never have it unless like he obviously finds somebody that would like want to have sex with a flesh blob. But in Belial's dream, it's like basically he's having like a wet dream, which is like just a wild idea. But I don't know how I was going with that. It's just weird to me, I guess, the sexuality of Belial and like how it's handled in the first film. It's more like delicate, I guess, about it. And then the other films are like, yeah, Belial will be tearing some, mutant pussy up and stuff later. Like he's all like a ladies man with like a mutant. But like, it's just, in the first film, it's like very sad, I guess, and like poignant that he is, wants sex and intimacy and he can't have it, but Dwayne can have it,
Well, kind of like the tree scene in the original Evil Dead, like depending on your sensibility, many people describe the one scene here as like a kind of rape scene, but depending on your sensibility, it's either like extremely horrific or like one of the funniest things in the movie. And the idea of like this little like Siamese twin sexually attacking this woman like cracks me the hell up, whatever that says about me. That scene is like extremely hilarious to me.
Because if that was me, I'd have kicked that motherfucker across the room like a football. I mean, I would just picked him up and just kicked him, but that's just me, I guess.
He's really strong. He's really strong though. Like we can't underestimate the grip he has. He is.
He does, like at the end, like I love that part where Belial's holding on to the building, and then he's got his brother in the other hand, and he's like trying to hold him and keep him from falling. And I guess that's a really good demonstration of just how strong he is. I mean, he's just all arms. Like he has like that's like all his muscle is like in his arms. So.
And as crazy as it is, the sensibilities of Henenlotter come in, like the ending is super tragic, and it's just like he's holding, and it just explains Belial, like he was strangling him, but at the same time he's holding this and holding down here, but it's like he's still choking the shit out of him because it's the only way. Belial can't really even help, but it's like he's trying to hold on to him at the same time, but he's strangling him. It's just like Belial's help is even fucking deadly. And it just the whole idea, it just reminds me of like a classic Universal, the characters just falling off a large building, you know what I mean? Like the Hunchback falls, all the characters fall off the building.
Or King Kong. There's like all sorts of parallels we can draw. Plus, let's not forget how Belial had just been grabbing Dwayne's crotch moments prior to that. But it's just just even describing these things to someone who hasn't seen the movie, it is definitely a one of a kind film. But the 80s really were the era of the gore comedy, and I mean, different people would have different lists, but very without even any close runners up. My 5 favorite 80s horror comedies, let's see if I can remember this, would be Basket Case, The Toxic Avenger, Street Trash, Reanimator, and Psychos in Love. And those 5 movies are just like perfect horror comedies, and just they've stood the test of time, or at least with my puerile sense of humor, they still crack me the fuck up. So. After all these years, excellent films, all of them. So.
I love those movies. The thing that really is kind of messed up, think about it, right? I guess you could put like how Dwayne was attached to Belial. So he was always attached to him. And even when they're detached, he can't get away from him. He can't get away from, I guess, maybe that like guilt or whatever, because Belial can talk to him in his head, so he can never fucking escape. He can't go out and have a normal life because Belial's always there. He feels responsible, and Belial's attached, and he's jealous. It's just, honestly, it's torturous. And Dwayne says it. I don't even know who's more messed up. I mean, because the idea you can't escape from your past or all that stuff too is just kind of haunting. I mean, Dwayne's clearly a haunted character, and that's why when the sequels, Belial seems to start having a better life, and Dwayne kind of reacts like, nah, fuck you. You ruined my life. Now it's my turn to ruin yours.
Yeah, and even like right at the end when they fall from the window and from hanging on the thing, when it pans down, which is, I love the shot too, when they pan down, they're together again, like the way they fell, Belial's like where he normally would be, you know, so like it was like even in death that they couldn't really escape each other's influence. Like, because the whole entire movie, and even the whole entire series, really, it's about codependency, right? Like, Dwayne feels like his life would be better without Belial, but he is so racked with guilt whenever he tries to live his life without Belial that it, like, basically, it sours anything he tries to do. And then when Belial tries to go out on his own, you know, it upsets. They're doomed to be together, but never to be together. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're, you know, it's just a tragedy all around. And honestly, though I like the sequels, I really like the vibe of Basket Case as a movie just by itself, you know, without the sequels. That the entire thing, the tragedy, the complete circle of them being together, separated, then being together in death. I don't know if they were meant to be dead in the first one. I feel like they were, because I think Henenlotter was very surprised at how popular that film ended up being. He's expressed that, I've seen a couple times in interviews. Right. I'm not mad that they brought them back on it. I mean, it's, you know, that it's just horror. That's how it goes. But I just love the idea of, like, in a vacuum, the way the story kind of wraps itself back up in a circle in the first one.
And it's easy to think about, like, well, maybe that feels like a short period of time between the original and Basket Case 2 because we were all so young back then. But really, the world of film distribution was so radically changed between 1982 and 1990. So it really was, even though only 8 years, a huge amount of time as far as the history of film and what was going on with theaters closing left and right, and way less theatrical venues for independent movies, but then also the giant boom of home video in that time period. So it was really like a changing time. And you know, I grew up in a household with a professor father and a mother who was a high school teacher, and stereotypically there were just stacks of newspapers everywhere. Every single day we got both the Buffalo News and the New York Times, and I remember salivating over the ad in the New York Times when Basket Case 2 opened, and I just didn't think there was any way in hell that it would play theatrically in my hometown. I was in the 9th grade at the time, and sure enough, 4 weeks later, it fucking opened at like a major multiplex. And it was the same day that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles opened. And in order to convince my friend to go see Basket Case 2 with me, I had to agree to also see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And we saw them back to back on a Saturday afternoon. I would have gone on opening night, but I didn't know. I was at my friend's house, and we saw it in the newspaper there. And I couldn't believe it. I could barely sleep that night with excitement that I was going to get to see Basket Case 2 theatrically. You know, and then seeing clips from the original on the big screen was one of the things I remember most about that experience. There were only, besides me and my friend, there was only 2 other people in the audience. And they walked out. They watched the whole thing, and then they walked out during Belial's sex scene at the end. You know, imagine being 14 years old, about to turn 15. One of your all-time favorite movies is Basket Case, and, like, you're living in this shitty little city where, like, you know, not that many cool movies are opening, and you get to see Basket Case 2 on the big screen. It was one of my treasured childhood film experiences. It was just, like, super, super cool to get to do that. And, you know, I'll never forget that excitement of just, like, you know, sitting there waiting to see see Basket Case 2. It was, like, wild.
What'd you think of Ninja Turtles?
I know. Oh yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
God, I've only seen Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that one time, and I don't have any thoughts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I have ambivalent on very few things in life, but I'm totally ambivalent on the fucking Ninja Turtles. But I will say that. You know, one of the things when I was interviewing Frank Henenlotter, and I'm very very proud of that interview. It's the longest print interview he's ever done. And yes, a lot of that information, the majority of that information is also available elsewhere, but it is a cogent little guide to Henenlotter that contains, all of his main stories. And I tried to sprinkle in some of my my own knowledge of Henenlotter and his work. And one of the things that I remember distinctly, and I couldn't tell you the year, but I was flipping channels and Basket Case was on USA Up All Night, and I was absolutely amazed that the full male nudity of Dwayne running through the street naked was left in. They must have just been scanning for female nudity, and somehow they just missed the fact that there's like a naked dude running down the street. And I thought that was quite amusing. That I don't know if the next time USA aired it, they caught that mistake. Presumably they may have, but yeah, at some point it aired, or that scene aired uncut on USA, which amuses the hell out of me. So
It's kind of funny on those USA Up All Night movies is like they would just leave in all the gore for the most part. It was just boobs. Like somebody getting chopped in half, cool. Like a titty, no, get that titty out of here. It was just, so I always felt like, when I was growing up, and that's how I saw a lot of cult movies, was USA Up All Night. When I would watch the real version, I was like, oh, I was just missing tits, basically. That was it. I saw all the rest of it,
No, that's very true. A personal favorite movie of the movies that I first saw on USA Up All Night is Cheerleaders Wild Weekend, which is this crazy rape revenge movie, but it was hiding in the comedy section of your local video store just because of the corny cover art that they chose and the title. And so I just never really noticed it. I spent most of my time in the horror section, although I do like all kinds of movies, but especially at that age, I just didn't really know what this thing was. And then immediately after seeing it on USA Up All Night, I went and rented the Vestron video tape. It looks like on my shelf over there, I have a copy of it on Betamax, of the Vestron tape. But in any event, yeah, USA Up All Night was on at the same time as Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater on the Movie Channel, and I would flip channels back and forth. But then when I got a little bit older and I had a social life that included being out late on Friday and Saturday nights, I would feel sad that I was missing those things, and so I would try to record, and then I'd have to choose. It was like fucking Sophie's Choice. Do you choose Joe Bob's Drive-In Theater or Gilbert Gottfried and Rhonda Shearer? It was really, sometimes it was tough. I remember this consternation, just sitting there programming the VCR, and then you'd have to make sure that sometimes I'd have to write it down because I never had a TV VCR in my room, so I'd have to be Mom and Dad, when you go to bed, you have to leave the TV cable box on, set to this channel, or I'm not going to get my recording of Cheerleaders Wild Weekend, and I'll be very sad. So please don't fuck that up. I remember having that conversation many a time.
You know what's really crazy about Frank Henenlotter's career? So in the early 80s, he had this movie. He made it on a budget, independent, and he got it in theaters, and they made some money from it, right? And then he goes through the whole mid-'80s and early 90s VHS boom to video stores with Glickenhaus and Shapiro and those guys and stuff like that. And he learns how to make money that way. And the theaters dried up, and then the VHS boom dries up. And then he starts working on something weird, video, DVD, putting all these DVDs out, buy entire records from a lot of your article and stuff like that. And then the fucking DVD world dries up. It's just somebody following film as best as they can to be part of it and loving it, making a career out of it. And everything just dries up. The majors realize, oh, somebody else is making money from this shit, or we're going to change the game, and they completely fuck it up. It's just almost impossible to be an independent and make any real living off making movies anymore.
Well, but he so brilliantly kept up with the times, right? I mean, yeah. He went from watching horror movies on his black and white TV as a child to hanging out on 42nd Street. And that's a whole other extremely interesting thing to talk to him about, because, if you've just sat down with some of these these 42nd, I didn't even complete my original thought, but anyway, if you sit down with these 42nd Street scholars, Henenlotter really saw it differently. Like, he did not, feel like it was all that dangerous, He thought it was just like a great place to see movies, and yeah, there were some characters, but like, until near the end, he didn't think it was all that dangerous, Whereas you talk to Bill Landis, who's a hero of mine, who I got to know a little bit before he died, and it sounds completely and totally wild. On the other hand, I mean, Bill was looking for some of that, and if you were looking for some of that, you could probably find it. But so Frank would keep up with the times, and there's still no physical release of the Mike Diana documentary other than the Kickstarter one, and his movie Chasing Banksy has still not been released. I think that I don't want to say something that's not accurate, but I think he's savvy, and he's waiting for the right the right opportunity to release that. But I mean, he had like decades of filmmaking under his belt. One of the things, I'm jumping around a little bit, but one of the things that and I know ironically, it was right after I had complimented and talked about how nice it was sitting down with the group we were talking with that day, where Troy Howarth kept jokingly referring to me as an edgelord, because I do like to poke fun sometimes at some of the lameness in our scene. But like, to me, when Arrow finally included Slash of the Knife on a release of Basket Case, to me, that was on my short list of things that, like, I've always wanted to see. I never thought I'd get to see it, and it fucking blew my mind. Like, yes, I liked it. Yes, it's cool, but that's not really what I'm talking about when I say it blew my mind. It was just the fact that you got to see it, and the fact that it had so many cast members from Basket Case in it, looking as they did in Basket Case largely. It just is one of these things that we've waited for so long, and then it finally comes out, and you really didn't hear that many people talking about it, That's what made the Arrow release so incredible to me, was like, Slash of the Knife, we're going to get to fucking finally see this thing. He said forever that thing screened once, and no one was ever going to get to see it again, and that his childhood 8mm shorts were just like a kid messing around, and no one's ever going to get to see those. But like, getting to see Slash of the Knife, like, oh my God. And the fact that people aren't or haven't been really talking about that much just goes to show how many motherfucking posers there are out there, because that was like, that was so fucking cool. And like, and it has a commentary track to guide you through, as in addition to watching it on its own. I mean, to get to know some of these people, and I've gotten to know quite a few Henenlotter related people, including Frank himself. Like, I remember when I was a child, we would spend a lot of time in New York City. I'm not trying to act like I'm a New Yorker. I'm not a New Yorker. I grew up in fucking Buffalo. But my mom's extended family all lives in New York City, and we would go there at least twice a year, including always around Christmas time, because my grandfather's birthday was December 23rd. So we were in New York a lot. And I remember one time when I was sometime in junior high school, I decided I was going to take the phone book, the white pages, and look up a bunch of famous people that I knew lived in New York City. And of course, my version of famous people is not like a normal person's version of famous people. And so I'm looking up, people in bands. I'm finding like nobody, right? And then sure enough, in the phone book is Frank Henenlotter. It's unmistakably him. Like, there's no one else named Frank Henenlotter, right? Like, even in New York City, it's not, there's not a Henenlotter section, right, in the phone book. Like, I think he was I don't know if he was the only one or not, but I find Frank Henenlotter, and like, I just like exclaim out loud how excited I am. And, my family thinks like, whatever, kid, like, and my dad, who I love very much, said something to me that was completely and totally incorrect, which was, he was like, well, his phone number is not in the phone book for you to call him, and like, that's exactly what his phone number was in the phone book for, like, Frank Henenlotter had a listed phone number all those years precisely for for fans and other people to be able to find him. He's never hid from that. And even though he didn't do very many conventions until relatively late in his life, like he would show up at the Something Weird table, and he would usually try to get out of Chiller as quickly as possible. I actually never met him in that context. I remember seeing him in the lobby at Chiller once when it was in this like giant 2-story building, and like seeing him like walking out and trying to like chase after him and missing him. Then that would have been my first opportunity to meet him in person. But like I never did call him as a kid, and I sure should have. Not to say that he would have been thrilled about being called by someone that age, but hey, I passed for much older. He didn't have to know that I was 14 or whatever. I looked like I was fucking 40 by the time I was done in high school. So anyway, I'm rattling on a little bit there, but yeah, Frank Henenlotter had a listed number in the white pages forever and ever, and I should have called it, but I didn't.
I remember I met him at Cinema Wasteland, and I was wearing a Street Trash hoodie, and I posted the picture, and somebody else that wasn't even friends with me on there commented like, "Why would you wear Street Trash? Henenlotter hates that director, yada yada yada." And Frank commented underneath that said, "You know what? I would never hate that movie, or because the cameraman on that movie or something like that. Jimmy Moreau was one of my best friends at the time, so whatever." You know what I mean? It's just like somebody who's carrying on some bullshit, and he just had to correct them. I definitely get the impression that he is a friendly guy, but if you say something stupid or ignorant, he's going to correct you, which you should be. People often get very angry if you correct them when they're wrong, even if they're completely wrong. And you're just like, that's not accurate. You're not trying to be a dick. They're just like, ah! It was very funny to see him kind of put this guy in his place who was just being a dick.
One of the things that I think is really important when you are doing whatever it is that we're doing here, like I consider both of you film journalists and film writers and film critics and whatever other term you want to call yourselves. But I think it's important for all of us. And one of the things that I really respect about both of you is like, you don't feel the need to act like you know more than you do. Meaning, like, if it's your first time seeing something, you'll admit, hey, this is my first time. No one's seen everything, but there's so many people out there who feel the need to, inflate themselves, act like they're better watched than they are. I mean, none of us have seen everything, and it's cool to be able to admit that and have a sensibility where it shows that you actually love film and actually care about this stuff. So
I disengage very much so if I interact with somebody like that. I remember, I'm not giving names, but we were making this movie, and this guy didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know who I was. Not that I'm anybody special, but I've been watching movies at that time for religiously for my entire life. And they were just on about something stupid about not liking this director because they rip people. I was like, and I've actually seen the movies they're ripping off, yada, yada. And I'm just like, I was thinking, this guy is so hard trying to prove his worth to somebody that doesn't really give a shit. I don't care. None of us care. And I was just like, immediately like, red flag. This guy's a loser. Like, and not a loser and like, hey, I don't have a mental loser. He's weak. He just has to, he's so insecure. In that, you know what I mean? Like, there's tons of movies I haven't seen. I haven't seen The Haunting. That's my biggest blind spot. I mean, we're all like that, there's just some things that, and I think there is a thing inherently about people is if somebody's like, you got to see this, you got to see this, you got to see this. Like, I missed my time to see this. And now I'm either waiting for a special occasion or I've been so annoyed for so many years that I'm not watching it right now.
I have avoided so many movies for that exact reason. Yeah. Like that's why it's a great movie, of course, but like I didn't fucking see Fight Club till a couple years ago because when that movie came out, the kind of people who were all about it were like, "Bro, have you seen Fight Club? Fuck off, bro. Like you don't know me to bro me. I'm not watching Fight Club." And then when I finally I saw him do a reading, I read a couple of his novels, and I'm like, Jesus, this is the guy who wrote Fight Club. Finally watched the movie. Of course, it's great, but I watched it on my own time. God damn it, It's like, okay, well, you haven't seen Tough Beauty and the Sloppy Slop, So, anyway.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like, with my film watching habits. The more obscure something is, the more likely I've seen it, which is, like, ironic, I guess. Like, people will be like, I didn't see Cliffhanger. before, and I watched it last year because it came out on 4K. I was like, fuck yeah, 4K cliffhanger. This is the way to watch it. I watched it and it was cool. It was like, it was all right. And then, and then people are like, oh my God, you haven't seen Cliffhanger? But I could literally name 20 obscure things they've probably never seen. I don't give a shit though. Who cares what everybody's seen? But I think sometimes there's a little bit of cult of personality that people try to build around themselves, like a front, I guess. But it's just like, I'm just a person that likes movies, that likes watching them and writing about them. That's, that's all it is. It's like, there's no bigger aspirations than that, and you're just, and I like people along for the ride. Hey, and I enjoy when other people have seen stuff that I have seen. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited for you. So watch that and let's talk about it. It's so fun because I remember when I watched it, how I felt like, and I'm excited, for somebody else to feel that. But yeah, sometimes this hobby is like, especially after social media started really blowing up, man. It just got wild.
On the term of cliffhanger, I literally just bought that 4K today because it's on sale. That's one that I loved growing up, but I just immediately, right when you said that, I thought, keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times, shithead. And when you mentioned slash and knife, I immediately thought, I was like, I didn't pay for him to be clipped. That's so ridiculous that he makes him sew the foreskin back on. It is like, that's Henenlotter. It's just like, people are like, this is stupid. It's like, yes, he knows it's stupid. That's the fucking funny part of it. It's absurdist humor. People do not get absurdist humor, If a movie is that silly from start to beginning, and I'm like, I love it. It's so silly. It's so ridiculous. But then a movie that is deadly serious, you got to be very careful if you're playing a movie that's deadly serious, because you start making mistakes, people are not going to be forgiving. Like with the slash of the knife or basket case, you're like, it's an absurdist. You can get away with it. But when you're deadly serious and you start making mistakes, that's why I argue with people about that shit. They're like, well, you like this and that's the stupidest thing ever. It's like, yes, but that's a tone of the movie.
It's intentional. That's intentional. The difference.
Like, when I'm watching like The Dark Knight and they're like, but it's a comic movie, but it's deadly fucking serious. And this doesn't make any fucking logical sense. I'll forgive it. I can't write a movie off completely, but it's like, in a deadly serious movie, you got to be more careful. And if you're not, you end up shooting yourself in the foot a lot of the times, And so I just have a weird sensibility, I guess, or maybe an understanding that some people don't watching a lot of this shit, We're all different. But yeah, I forgot what I was going on about. I guess I'm just ranting like the rest of us. Does anybody have anything else to say about Basket Case or anything about it or Henenlotter?
Well, I have this long, I don't know, this might end up being boring, so you can tell me to just not do it altogether, but I kind of wrote out for my own edification, sort of like a look back on like the people I've met from these movies and when I met them and when they appeared at this and that. I have that's like my only notes I have here. Is that interesting or is that boring?
No, let's go for it.
So, Cinema Wasteland means the world to me, as anybody who knows anything about me knows. Ken Kish and his wife Pam Kish, who run the show, they really it's my favorite convention. I love everything about it. It's an honor to be able to be a part of it, and I've been to every single Wasteland except for the very first one. And the first time I went to Cinema Wasteland, which was the second ever Wasteland, was because Kevin VanHentenryck was going to be there. And the idea that I could meet Dwayne Bradley in person, it just was so exciting to me. The only actual horror convention I'd been to before that, one time I went to a Ghoulardi Fest in 1997. But 2001, it was just a couple of days after September 11th. So it was September 15th, 2001. Definitely a weird time for a convention. But I went and met Kevin VanHentenryck then. And then it wasn't until September of 2010 that I got to do a panel with any of these people. We did a basket case panel here in Pittsburgh at Horror Realm. And it was Henenlotter, Kevin VanHentenryck, and Beverly Bonner. And it was awesome to get to meet Henenlotter in person, talk to him in person, and Beverly Bonner as well. And then there was a Cinema Wasteland in the fall of 2011 where there were so many Henenlotter related guests. We actually did two panels. We did one that was involving the basket case movies only with Beverly Bonner, John Caglione, David MG, Kevin VanHentenryck, and Frank Henenlotter. And we did a second one with people involved in other Henenlotter movies, and we had Gabe Bartalos, Charlotte Kemp, James Lorenz, Anthony Sneed, and Frank Henenlotter. And there were other people there who weren't even on any of the panels. I know Mike Diana was there, which was great meeting him. And then, as I mentioned before, Beverly Bonner did that Casey 30 years later performance here in Pittsburgh. That was in May of 2012. And then in April of 2013, Kevin VanHentenryck appeared at Chiller again. And what was especially cool about that was he brought with him one of the Belials from Basket Case 3. And so I got to see one of the actual high-end. By that, I mean, like, you know, they had a bigger budget, and it was like, it's a very sophisticated little Belial. It was super cool. And then, of course, I got to do my lengthy interview with Henenlotter in April of 2015. And then there was a Frankenhooker reunion at Chiller that October. So we all got to hang out. That was also the last time that Zachary appeared at Chiller, and the last time Herschel Gordon Lewis was there before he died. We were all in the same room together. And that's just the basket case stuff. Like, you know, there was also in September of 2005, James Lorenz was at a street trash reunion at a Fangoria convention. I had first met Roy Frumkes the one year they did Fantasia Fest in the late 90s in both Toronto and Montreal. But the first time I met James Lorenz was in September of 2005, and then at a Fangoria convention. And then there were street trash reunions at Cinema Wasteland. There was one in October of 2006. Patty Mullen, I first met her in 2012 at Days of the Dead in Indianapolis. And then Mr. Lorenz was also at Shockstock in April of 2014 in London, Ontario. And then Patty Mullen came back to Wasteland on her own in October of 2014. And then she was also at Horror Realm in July of 2015. Then we did another street trash reunion at Wasteland in April of 2016. And then there was a Frankenhooker reunion in October of 2018 at Chiller that Henenlotter was not at, but the two stars were there. And then Mr. Lorenz came to one of our Deep Red signings at Forbidden Planet in New York in December of 2019, right before COVID. And then as conventions have started back up again, Patty Mullen was at Chiller in May of 2022. And then at this last Cinema Wasteland in April, Mike Watt and I did a Frankenhooker panel with the two stars. So it's been really cool getting to hang out with these people so many times. And when I started making this list, I was like, God damn, that's a lot of different shows that they've been at that I've had the pleasure of being at and gotten to do a lot of panels with them. I also got to write a chapter for this upcoming book about street trash. But anyway, I'll shut up with my laundry list. But yeah, that's some of the times I've gotten to meet and hang out with Henenlotter and Henenlotter related people.
Very cool. Just a question. So just where would you put, what's your favorite Henenlotter movie? I think mine's Brain Damage, and then Basket Case. I think in that order. So
Basket Case. Basket Case is not only my favorite Henenlotter movie, it's one of my all-time favorite movies. I absolutely adore Basket Case, and I can't wait till we do our top 10 list of 1982 episode where I get to yell at all of you who fucking put The Thing above Basket Case on your top 10 list. Fuck right off with that. Basket Case is amazing.
Michele?
I guess for me, Frankenhooker, Basket Case, Brain Damage. That's my order. I don't know. Frankenhooker is just like such a fun film. I don't know, everything. I love everything about the aesthetic, just like the premise, just hilarious. Man, if you ever did episode on Frankenhooker, I'd be on that one.
I mean, definitely come back for Frankenhooker, and probably if you guys are going to come back for Brain Damage. I mean, we already established, the Henenlotter, so it'll probably just be on every Henenlotter one until I die. I don't I have no clue if I'm going to make it through the 80s. I don't know if I have enough gas to make it through the 70s, and I definitely probably don't have enough to make it through the 90s. But we'll see.
The thing about Brain Damage for me is I didn't first see it uncut. I first saw it how it was released here originally on the Paramount home videotape. That's the version that played U.S. theaters too. That certainly didn't play where I lived. But the two best scenes aren't in it, the two most memorable scenes. And I love the lead performance. I love the creature. There's so much to love about it, but I just like it was a slow burn for me because I first saw it cut, and then I saw in the bootleg era I saw it uncut, and then just took a while to really understand it as it was meant to be. So
one question, I think. So this is shot on 16. Now, thinking about other, 80s New York movies on 16 or that time frame, was Driller Killer on 16 or is that 35? I know Maniac was 16, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going to look it up. I don't want to say something incorrect. Maniac is Super 16.
Yeah.
And Maniac is Super 16. Cannibal Ferox is 16.
And they're blown up on 35, right? Basket Case was for sure.
And they look it which is a whole other thing. Like if you've ever seen Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer on 35, the blow up process and the graininess that creates gives it a really cool look. Like one of my favorite New York directors is Spike Lee. And I remember as I was becoming like more and more film savvy and like understanding what 16 millimeter was and 35 millimeter, etc. One of the first movies I saw that was shot on 16, blown up to 35, was Spike Lee's Get on the Bus. And it has this like, you can't tell when you watch it at home because of how they do the video transfers, but theatrically has this really cool grainy quality to it that is just, you only get from blowing up 16 to 35. A lot of people don't like that grain. I think it's awesome. I think it really adds to a movie. So
I remember you mentioning that when you did the Cannibal. You mentioned I think Ferox. You mentioned that you're like you don't really notice the difference between Holocaust being such an A picture being shot on 35 and then Ferox being shot on 16 and blown up. It's like there's a major difference. But when I'm at home on Blu-ray, I'm like, I mean, like you could tell Holocaust is a better made movie, but at the same time, like a picture quality, you're like, I mean, like.
Well, and seeing them as a double feature, I screened them here. I helped book them here back in the day. And Cannibal Holocaust being shot on 35 versus that. They were both brand new prints. So Ms. 45 is shot on 35, but Driller Killer is 16. I thought it was, but I didn't want, I was blanking for a second. Of course it is. But I didn't want to, on my list of pet peeves is when people say things that aren't correct that you could just so easily find out. It's like,
I've made mistakes though in the heat of the moment. You'll say something and you're like, oh, fuck, that's not. And I'll listen back and be like, that's not correct at all. What the hell was I thinking? Like I was like, I meant to say, he knows you're alone. Not, are you alone in the house? Oh, I mean, I'm like, you'll never. But that just happens. The one that drives me crazy is the fucking like, this is SOV. It's like, bro, Truth or Dare and Killing Spree are not SOV. They're edited on tape, so they look SOV to you, but they're not SOV. Mutilations is not SOV. Some people like Video Dead. It's like it's not on SOV. Like I don't even know how that one got thrown in the SOV world because it's called Video Dead. It doesn't look like it's shot on video at all. But that is always the one thing, and it's just like
Nail Gun Massacre is another one that it's clearly 16 millimeter.
Yeah,
I just watched that for the first time. In fact.
That's a fun one, right?
My ass.
Yeah.
Really fun.
I wasn't expecting I don't know why I thought it was going to be more serious than it was. Well, honestly, I just never seen it, so I had.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was going to be like this gritty kind of like rape revenge movie, and then it starts out with like a pretty gritty rape, but then it just goes into like the killer is just staying the funniest like puns and shit. I was like, dude, this is amazing. I love this.
He falls on the
Yeah.
grill like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get that 4K.
Before
that's the
that
one I
movie, before Driller, I can't even talk. Before Nail Gun Massacre had its kind of revival, we did an interview with the director in Ultraviolent, which was really fun. And he was a really sweet guy. He died young. He did a couple of Cinema Wastelands before he died. But yeah, I have a print interview with him that I'm also quite proud of. Terry Lofton was his name, and he was he was just this guy who ended these regional filmmakers. You know, a similar movie in some respects. Another Texas movie is Bloodsuckers from Outer Space. That's another kind
Like
of
Coburn, right?
Right, another good low budget shot on film Texas movie from that era. Kind of reminds me of it.
Before we get out of here, I want to know if you guys want to do the whole better than. So, like, I'll just go down a list of 1982 movies, and you guys just say which one you like. Just say the title, which one you like better. No explanation, no in-depth analysis, anything like that. I'll just start with Michele, then do Art, and I'll just name the movie. You just say Basket Case or that movie's title, and then we'll just move on. No explanation.
Okay.
I know Bruce is impossible to do this with because he's like, well, in that, I'm like, Bruce, I love you, but this is supposed to be a quick shot because we might cover these movies later, and you're getting your whole thing out there.
But this is gonna mess up our top 10 episode. But that's
you don't
okay.
have to partake, Art. I mean, we don't have to do
No,
this.
I want to. I love this shit. I love this shit. This is like the nerdy stuff that this drives Alana crazy. Like she doesn't really like to rank movies or like she's a big movie nerd, but she's like, I'm like, so what do you give it out of 10? And she's like, why? Like who cares? And I'm like, well, it's just fun to me. Like, you know, like it doesn't really matter, but like, you know, anyway.
My friend Moods always says ratings are for dummies. Like, but he rates them.
Well,
but he's just like,
yeah.
it doesn't. It's like,
I get it. You know.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, just with list, I think it's like a weird kind of thing. Like, it doesn't really matter. But so we're gonna start. We'll start with Michele. The Thing.
The Thing versus
Basket Case.
Basket Case. Oh, Art's gonna love this. The Thing.
Art.
Basket Case.
Okay. Poltergeist.
Basket Case.
Basket Case. Art.
Basket Case. I will note that I'm going to be like Holocheck for a second here. I'm sorry. So Poltergeist. I promise I won't talk you guys to zero. Poltergeist was my first horror movie. Like I saw, like some classic black and white stuff, like parts of them, but like watching it from start to finish. We got cable when I was in the third grade, which was the 83-84 school year, and no one in my family likes horror movies, but I watched Poltergeist by myself, and boy, did I love that movie, right? And for years, I thought Poltergeist was brilliant. And there was this giant movie theater here, over 400 seats, giant single-screen theater, and they showed Poltergeist in 35 millimeter. I'd never seen it on film. I was so excited, and I went to watch it, and I fucking hated it as an adult. And like that is so rare for me for a movie that meant that much to me. I haven't watched it since, but like when I was like in my late 20s and rewatched Poltergeist, I thought it was fucking terrible. So I thought it was like a boring mainstream like piece of shit. And I loved that movie as a kid, and it was so important to my development. Meanwhile, like other movies I loved as a kid, I probably love even more now. But anyway, I'll shut up.
Ditto. Art. I was a favorite as a kid, and as I got older, I'm like, I just kind of like the third one now, but I'm trying to give it. I hope I like it this time around.
It's a definitively. It's like what's wrong with Hollywood horror? Kind of like The Thing. Okay, go ahead.
What? What? All right. Halloween 3.
Oh, that's a good one. That's like that's my favorite Halloween film. I'll go Basket Case on that one too.
Art.
Basket Case.
Friday 13th Part 3.
Basket Case again.
Basket Case.
Tenebrae.
Tenebrae.
Basket Case.
Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh man. I'm gonna go basket case again. Unless we now if we were talking, part 2. But we weren't.
I love both Slumber Party Massacre and Tenebrae for the record. Basket case.
Creep Show.
Creep show.
Basket case.
Cat People.
Basket case.
Basket case.
Pieces.
Basket case.
Basket case.
I
And
don't like
Pieces is
Pieces.
one of my favorite movies. You don't like Pieces?
No, I don't like it. It's okay, but that's not my favorite.
It's a silly movie. I mean, it's a silly movie. Love it.
Q the Winged Serpent.
Oh.
I'm gonna go Q the Winged Serpent for that one.
Basket case, but Q is another personal favorite.
Here's one. New York Ripper.
Basket case.
Basket case.
Let me see. I don't think any of these other ones even have a chance. I'll just throw in a couple oddball titles in here just to see where they stand. You know what? I really don't. Speaking of SOV, Boarding House.
That one I haven't seen. I haven't seen Boarding House.
Because you're a high volume film watcher, you're allowed to watch Boarding House, but all other people should stay the fuck away. I like Boarding House, but man, that is I do have a soft spot for that movie, but god damn, that's a brutal one. Of course, basket case.
And speaking of movies blown up to 35, it's the only SOV blown up to 35 in the history of the fucking world. I watched it for the first time for 82. It was one that I had never watched because the people were like, it's a big pile of shit. And I watched it, I was like, I like it. But
there's something else. There's another shot. There's another SOV blown up to 35.
Really?
Yeah. Oh god, I'm blanking.
I mean, is it one of the OGs?
That's the most famous one, but yeah, there's one that I was surprised to hear that there were 35 prints of. I just heard about it recently.
It's not like Sledgehammer or anything, is it?
No. It's nothing that cool.
It's nothing like new, like older from the original kind of.
It is. There's one.
Oh,
there's one other one that like shocked me to learn that. Yeah.
It's crazy. I think we're good. I mean, there's so many movies from 82, but I think those are pretty much the heavy hitters of the year. I mean, there might be like an oddball title, like Amityville 2 versus Basket Case.
I haven't seen that one, Amityville 2. I've only seen the first one.
That's another personal favorite movie. Look, spoiler alert, my number one movie of 82 is Basket Case. Okay?
I thought so. I mean, it was taking out some heavy hitters. I was like, maybe New York Ripper.
And plenty of those are on my top 10 list. You did not get everything on my top 10 list, but plenty of them are on there. I just can't wait to hear how high The Thing is on everyone else's list when my number one will be Basket Case.
You're gonna fight everybody. I mean, like you'll try to fight the law on that one, but you're not gonna win, Art, because it's
I've already. What was funny was you'll notice on your last one I was talking smack on American Werewolf in London, and did you see how many people's comments were like agreeing with me? It was fascinating. Well, I was surprised.
Me too. I mean, that's the thing.
Hashtag me too.
Me too. No, like there's a couple. I mean, Poltergeist is going to be the one where I'm like, I hope I like this movie again. But I just when they start coming down the stairs, I'm just like, I want to throw up. Like I'm like,
which one's the tequila worm one? Is that the first one?
That's the second one, and that's
the one I remember the most.
Yeah, that was another. I haven't tried to rewatch that, but that was like at the very first Fangoria I bought. That was on the cover, and that's when I started going to like every horror movie coming out, like around that time. And man, like I cannot imagine that's a good movie, but who knows? It's possible. Anything's possible.
Watched that a few years ago, and the special effects are fantastic, but it has that real cornball thing where it's like, we're doing the Native American stereotype thing. It's just like it's even more cringe than like the video games of the 90s where it's like we got Nightwolf and Thunderhawk and Spirit from G.I. Joe. It's just like it's even worse. And it's like poor Will Sampson like made his career out of doing that. Great actor. And his One Flew Over Cuckoo's Nest performance is like the best Native American performance ever, right? One of them. But like a lot of the other movies, you're just like, hey, I'm in this movie and I'm that guy. But it makes sense when you're using a Western. But like when you're watching Poltergeist 2, you're like, what the fuck is this?
One of the I shouldn't say odd, one of the like distinguishing features of Western New York, where I grew up, is there's a giant Native American reservation. There's a Seneca reservation that runs from right near Buffalo into Niagara Falls and into that part of Ontario as well. And when I saw Poltergeist 2, when it came out in the theater, there was this like Native American there was this Native American family watching the movie, and they were just laughing uproariously at every scene involving that character. Like it was a interesting experience.
It's fucking cringe.
11-year-old. It is. It really is. But they didn't seem offended at that time. They seemed kind of amused. This one family in the theater. So
I mean, they probably looked at it as a stupid ass movie, It's like
which it is, yeah.
It's just kind of like the equivalent of every time somebody does like a white guy, it's like, well, hey guys, and you're just like, yeah, you just gotta laugh at it. Who gives a shit? I mean, a little bit of it's tiny bit of that is true. Yes, there are white nerds like that, but it's like, why not? Why not? We'll just do it. I'm not gonna take offense. I'm just gonna laugh at it. The one thing I do want to mention is kind of like we're talking about horror comedies, right? And then people are like, "This is the first horror comedy," or "This is the first self-aware movie," and it's like you're just talking shit on that, Like people like Scream's the first self-aware. It's like Psycho's in Love, On Mass Part 25, every William Castle movie, every Vincent Price movie. These are self-aware movies that know what the fuck they're doing. So the idea that they're mentioning facts on a movie, Return of the Living Dead, all these movies do that. They're self-referential in the movie. That did it a little different, of course, but I'm just saying, so we're talking horror comedies in the splatter vein, right? We have Evil Dead in 81, and I know Herschel Gordon Lewis is a big influence on, Frank Henenlotter. And this does have a lot of style of H.G. Lewis in there. I feel like it's different. I feel like the special effects are better, and I feel like the zany comedy is more purposely done. Like how Joe Bob said, this is an exploitation movie that is but it's like a love letter to them, but at the same time being one, which is different. He's like, this is the first like love letter to 42nd Street, but still at the same time kind of maintaining that quality. So where are we looking at the trajectory, because the 70s was so nihilistic, most of the stuff, and the 60s was kind of getting pushed out because of the, Last House on the Left, Texas Chainsaw, Night of the Living Dead stuff. And the 70s are really dark and gritty. And we started getting, there's occasional comedies in the 70s. In early 1980, we have like some silly stuff like Dr. Heckle, Mr. Hype, and comedies never die out. But the more mainstream we start getting, right? And the progression of the early 80s to fantastical reflecting the 50s and stuff. Where does Basket Case fit in that? Because it's kind of its own beat, but it's like a splatter kind of comedy, right?
I mean, I personally see the 80s. There's like a few things that really stand out in the 80s, but one of them is certainly the subgenre of the 80s. I think it's a whole thing in and of itself, like the 80s gore comedy. And Basket Case fits right into that. And I already named my my top 5, which I think are Basket Case, Reanimator, Street Trash, The Toxic Avenger, and Psychos in Love. Not in that order necessarily, but there's others that other people would certainly include, like Evil Dead 2. It's probably the most popular. It just feels like something a little bit different because it's a sequel to something that maybe wasn't a comedy, and I don't know, I just never associate it as directly with gore comedies as I do these other ones, even though it like inarguably is one. So
yeah, it's just bizarre. Like I think that this one is kind of stands out in that movement because like the early 80s, like I said, start off darker and then it just gets to the point like the thing has like the sci-fi elements, but that by the time we're in like 85, it's House, and it's just absurd like comedy.
Well, the slasher film era had died. The slasher film era that came and went, and so I think horror comedy and gore comedy was one of the next things to come.
Other countries don't necessarily follow the same rules. Like Encounters of the Spooky Kind was doing its own thing, and those kind of weird like mixture of kung fu, comedy, and horror were in 70s even. But it's just kind of starts to bleed in. It's a weird trajectory and everything like that. Is there anything anybody wants to say? Any mentions on the movie? Anything else before we kind of get into plugs?
I think I'm good.
It's always fun talking about Basket Case.
For sure. Michele, do you have any plugs? Anything you want to point out?
Not really. You know, I'm working on a couple of things, but I can't like talk about what they are, you know, before they come out. A lot of one of them is a movie I really, really love. It's really weird. That people have been wanting on Blu-ray for a while, so I'm excited to be writing about that one. But yeah, all the stuff I'm working on I can't talk about really, I guess. So
Art?
I have a couple of commentaries that have not yet been recorded that I can't talk about as well, but two are almost imminently coming out, so I can talk about them. Next month in August, Error 4444's release of the romantic comedy Red to Kill is due, and Bruce and I nailed it. I don't like to talk that way about myself very often, but we fucking nailed it. We've done a few commentaries together now, and like, yeah, we're not going to get a fucking rondo, but we've earned one. It's a killer commentary track, and we worked. I'm especially proud of, I think most people know that I'm a public defender by day, and there's a whole courtroom component to this movie, and I talk about the various types of legal systems around the world. And then I also talk about different recent movies that portray those different kinds of legal systems, including Anatomy of a Fall and Red Rooms, etc. So very proud of that commentary. And then in September, the Profane exhibit's finally coming out from Unearthed Films. Did a commentary, moderated a commentary track for that as well. And yeah, those are the main plugs I have. I also think that people should come to Cinema Wasteland because it's going to be a banger of a wasteland. Excellent guest list, including the return of Camille Keaton. So it's going to be quite the Cinema Wasteland. I'm also doing Gross Fest, which will probably happen before this airs. That's happening next weekend. And then I'll be at some other conventions too, but always like to plug Wasteland.
Appreciate you guys doing this. It's been a good time. And yeah, don't forget to ask the question, what's in the basket, right?
Mm-hmm. See you guys.
He's gonna fall on one of you people. Don't touch it.
What's in the basket?